Welcome to Boss Radio Live, everyone. Welcome to Boss Radio Live. I am your host, NJ. Welcome to the show. Today we have a really awesome guest. His name is Charles Read. He is a financial expert, and we're going to be talking about some tax talk. So it's going to be interesting, and I'm sure a lot of people could use this information, and that is coming right up. It's Boss Radio Live with NJ, your three-dimensional podcast. Baltimore, Maryland. I love my city. Wow. You have to have balance.
Mother's Day extravaganza event being held ILC Lois Butler Culver.
Come meet me today at the Spirit Fest. I want to hear what you have to say. Again, welcome to the show. I'm your host, NJ, and this is where he is the boss of me. And we have an amazing guest, a financial expert. And we are going to get into, like I said, some tax talk. So if you all have never heard of Charles Read, here is a little about him. Charles Read is a certified public accountant, four-time author, and founder of Get Payroll. With over 50 years of financial experience, Charles possesses a wealth of knowledge to help small businesses and startups. Whether it's taxes or payroll, even HR, Charles Read and Get Payroll have been helping businesses since 1991 and can help you avoid pitfalls and penalties. So everyone, please welcome my guest today, Charles Read. Welcome, Charles. How are you?
I'm well, NJ. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Awesome. I'm excited to have you because we know what time of year it is, right? But honestly, for businesses, this is a year-round thing, honestly. But, this is when people start biting their fingernails and getting very anxious. And so I thought it would be amazing to have you on because we know we have some people who are avoiding the end of tax season, trying to prolong it, whatever. So we know taxes and payroll issues are definitely not high on the list of things that entrepreneurs, business owners want to deal with. And so I really want to know about you. What made you get into this line of work, Charles, to help people with these issues?
Well, I'm a Midwestern boy. I grew up in Iowa. After high school, I joined the military. I was in the United States Marine Corps for 4 years, including 2 years overseas. Came back to the U.S., met and married my wife while I was still in service. She had 5 children when I married her. I claim insanity, but we were married for 45 years before she passed. So it was a good marriage. Wasn't perfect, but it was a good marriage. Anybody who tells you they have a perfect marriage probably lies about other things. So after that, after military, I found that business did not value my military experience then, like now, because they don't understand what military brings to the table, military experience. So I decided to go to school, get my credentials, went and got my BBA, my MBA, sat for and passed my CPA exam while I was still in graduate school. Went to work for Texas Instruments. Spent 15 years in the corporate world, big companies, little companies, startups, turnarounds, all kinds of great experience. Realized I was never going to get to the top of a major corporation. I didn't have the political skills. I was unwilling to stab people in the back and toss them off the ladder.
Mm.
So if I was going to run a business like my father, I'd have to start my own like he started his own. So just over 30 years ago, I hung out my shingle as a CPA. My wife and I started the business, and 30 years later, here I am.
Wow. Well, that is an amazing story, right? A lot of things you actually brought up when you started talking. One is how we devalue our veterans, which is a big one.
Yes.
But also, corporate culture and politics and business is something else also. So that is a lot of things that can hinder. But instead of letting it hinder you, look what you turned that into. And so that's amazing. So I'm grateful for that. Um, so, with that being said, I would like to know about you speak to businesses being tax compliant. And so when you're a new business and you're just starting up, a lot of people maybe they should know what that means, but they don't. A lot don't know what that means. And so I would love for you to really talk about that when you're starting up. How can you make sure that you're being tax compliant?
Sure. The first thing is you have to understand that you don't know what you don't know. So you need to get into it very quickly and understand what taxes you're responsible for, how they're calculated, how they're paid, how they're reported. You'll have federal, you'll have state, and you may have local taxes that you're responsible for as a business person. So you need to find out what those are. If you don't know, talk to a local CPA. He'll know. That's his business. You probably going into business need a CPA that you can talk to. You don't have to use them a lot. You don't have to pay them a lot of money, but an hour or two here and there may save you many, many, many times what you pay him.
A
So
lot of money. Yeah.
you have to get a federal ID number. You have to get a state ID number. In fact, you'll probably have to get two state ID numbers, one for revenue and one for unemployment. With federal, it's all the same one. Some states, it's only one number. You may have to get local numbers. So once you go and register with all these people, you'd be amazed how many clients come to me and they haven't registered with the state. They didn't realize they had to. So we show them how to do it. And it varies from state to state.
Yes.
Then you have to learn some things. This is real true in startups. They just want to pay people, just pay them, right?
Mm.
Oh, well, and if they get sophisticated, well, we'll pay them as a contractor as a 1099. That's not a choice you get to make.
Hmm.
There's a whole body of law that determines whether a person working for you is an employee or an independent contractor.
Yes.
The Department of Labor estimates that 70% of all U.S. businesses misclassify employees. And that misclassification can cost you an immense amount of money. One of the things that the federal government has done with 46 of the states, there's four they haven't, they're talking to, is there's a memo of understanding between the state and the Fed about independent contractors and sharing that information. So if the feds find out that you're misclassifying, they'll notify the state. If the state finds out you're misclassifying, they'll notify the Fed, and you're going to get double hit.
Mm.
Uh, didn't used to be that way, but now they're all in agreement that if you're misclassifying people, they're going to roast you.
Yes, and that is actually a huge one. I have seen and heard people doing this so much
Yep.
that they do this, and it depends on several things. It depends on how often they're working for you. If they have a set schedule, like all of these things, that's just some of the stuff. But yeah, like
There's
people don't realize.
there's 20 common law rules which are the base, and they're about control and money and other things. For instance, if they can substitute somebody else to do the work, they may well be an independent contractor.
Mhm.
But if you require them to be there at 8 a.m. and stay there until 5 and do things the way you tell them to do, and they do it, they're an employee.
Yes,
Now,
yes.
there's the gray area in between.
Mhm.
As a CPA, I'm normally an independent contractor. I have staff that may do the work that I put my name on, and I do you a fee. And if I quote you a price and my cost is more than that, that's my problem. Okay. I'm an independent contractor as a CPA. But in between that and a typical employee, there's a lot of gray area. And
Mhm.
sometimes you can actually structure your agreements with people to push them one way or the other legally. And so you need to know what you need to do that. It's
Yeah.
one of the chapters in my newest book talks about independent contractors and all the things in detail because it is important. So
Yes.
you want to structure that. You can actually fill out an SS8 and send it to the IRS, and they'll tell you whether that person and what you've stated makes them an independent contractor or an employee. And I will promise you, they will tell you it's an employee because they want the taxes withheld and deposited with the IRS because that really enhances compliance.
Yeah.
If the money is withheld and deposited and the income and taxes are reported, compliance is about 99%. If the income is not withheld, the taxes are not withheld from the income, and the income is not reported to the IRS, compliance is about 27%.
Wow.
So there's a major gap. So they want everybody to be an employee on a W-2. They can't make it happen, but they'd like it to.
So you mentioned this book, and I have a couple of follow-up questions, but you mentioned this
Sure.
book, the latest one, which is called the Payroll Book,
We wrote
which
the book on payroll.
yes, literally. Absolutely. So this payroll book, and for you guys who have been hearing just the first part of what Charles is saying, I know you probably are like, where can I get this book and how fast can I get it? So the payroll book. Charles, so tell us about the payroll book and what prompted you to write it. I'm sure it was all the issues you were seeing.
Exactly. My clients had issues and things come up and questions be answered, and I'd have to figure them out over the many years. And I thought, well, I'd like to put something together. The only other similar thing out there is the payroll source from the American Payroll Association, and it's $600. So I sat down to write a guide and a reference for small businesses, not big ones, just the smaller businesses, under 50 employees, basically.
Yeah.
Over that, they tend to have people on staff that are professionals at this. So I said, I'm going to write this, right? It took 2 years.
Wow.
I thought it would be an easy, I'll kick it out in a few weeks.
You say not so
And
much.
I submitted the concept and the outlines to Wiley, and they agreed to publish it. So it's published by a major publishing house, which made it a
Awesome.
much better book. Instead of just me, they helped with. They had people who would do the editing, the layout, the graphics, all these things. And we got to the end, and I was going to do the index, right? Because it was an extra $800 for them to do the index. And I spent 3 days and bought some software, and then called my contact at Wiley and said, "Can you guys do this index?" And they said, "Absolutely." They got professional indexers, that do this for a living. And the index is so much better than I ever could have made it. It's not
Wow.
even funny. But for your listeners, if they'd like a copy of the book, if they will go to thepayrollbook.com, which is the website for the book, thepayrollbook.com, enter the discount code podcast and their information, I will ship them a free book as long as the supply lasts. No shipping, no handling, just we'll send you one. It'll take about a week to get there via U.S. mail.
Okay. Did you guys hear that? That is amazing. That is amazing. How much did you say that the other thing, if you don't get this, the alternative, you said it was $600?
It's about $600.
So, guys, the website is right here. Go get the book. Go get the book. It's free. Go get the book. So yeah, that's my plug for that. Wow. So that's amazing. I thank you. I know my listeners are jumping for joy right now. So the payrollbook.com, you guys. So we were talking a bit about some of the things that new business owners can kind of fall into dealing with. Employees, whether you're you have employees or contractors, and all the things that you have to do at setup. And I was trying to figure out. You talk about like these 5 tips to avoid tax penalties, and so
Mhm.
can we talk a bit about that? And I know my listeners' ears are
Sure.
perking up right now.
Okay. The biggest source of employment tax penalties is miscalculations,
Mm,
simple arithmetic. So make sure all your numbers work. They add, they subtract, they multiply. That's the biggest source of errors. The biggest source of penalties is just arithmetic.
yeah.
And if you're not comfortable with it, get your 6th grader to look at it. They can do it. Okay.
Great advice.
Okay. That's the first thing. The next thing is you have to deposit your taxes on time. If you are 1 second late, 1/10 of a second late, there's a penalty. So deposit them on time. Know what you have to deposit. Know that calculation. Know it exactly. Now,
Mm,
if you over deposit, that's okay. If you under deposit, there's a penalty.
mm-hmm.
So know what you have to deposit and deposit on time. Know what you have to file. Know the forms you have to file with the Fed, with the state, with the local. Know what they are, know how to fill them out, and get them in on time. Again,
Yes.
if they're late or you don't send them at all, there's a penalty. Now, I'm going to give one tip here that the IRS will never tell you. The Internal Revenue Service cannot penalize you for a simple mistake.
Mm,
They can only penalize you for gross negligence. The kicker is who defines gross negligence? Because it's not defined in the code or the law or the rules anywhere. So it comes down to, in the end, what the judge says. If the judge says it's a simple mistake, there's no penalty. So
wow.
if you have a penalty, and the IRS issues, in fiscal 19, they issued $13 billion of employment tax penalties. Several billion got abated, reversed, and several billion more should have been reversed, but weren't because people didn't know how to do it. So if you
Wow.
get a penalty, appeal it. Always object to it. Your first letter that you write saying, this is wrong, please reverse it, you're going to get an answer saying no. Just count
Mm,
on it. Okay.
mm-hmm.
Your second letter, maybe 1 in 20, they'll go okay. Then the third letter goes to appeals, and that's when the opportunities open up. You have appeals hearings, you have due process hearings. You can actually take it to tax court, depending
Mm-hmm.
upon the certain situation. Penalties you can, missed taxes maybe not. But if there's a penalty that was assessed inappropriately, you can take that to tax court for a $60 filing fee. It's one of the reasons I became a U.S. tax court practitioner, was
Mm-hmm.
to be able to help my clients. Because now, if we get to loggerheads with the IRS, I can file a petition with the IRS, with the tax court, and get a whole nother bite at the apple, a
Yeah.
whole nother look at it by all different people. So it just, and 95% of all U.S. tax court cases are settled before court.
Mm,
So in all probability, even if you're wrong, you're going to get a settlement offer for less than what the IRS has been asking for. Okay.
that's
So
nice.
it's worthwhile doing it if it Now, guys, if it's $20, just pay it. It's not worth writing the letter, okay? Don't be
Absolutely.
penny wise and pound foolish, okay? Don't waste your time on minor mistakes, silly stuff. Uh, I get them in for $7 at times, and frankly, we guarantee for our clients that they won't get penalized if they give us the correct information. So when we get things like that from the IRS making a mistake, I just pay them for my client. $7 isn't worth arguing about writing a letter or anything else.
Yeah.
It cost me more than $7 to write the letter, so why
Absolutely.
do that? So
Yes.
those 5 things will solve most of the penalties, and then appeal any penalties that you do get, because dealing with the IRS is like sales. It's a whole series of no's followed by a single yes. I've had cases take as long as 9 years
Oh
to
my
get through the system.
gosh.
Yeah,
Wow.
we had one that's the worst. It took 9 years, and it was a $95,000 penalty in the end. I ended up calling the deputy chief of appeals in D.C. because the people that worked for her weren't returning calls, and she had to return the calls, of course, that
Mm,
day. It's nice when you know the right people.
yes.
And then we got it reset up with a whole new appeals office and looked at. And roughly 3 months later, my client got a $400 refund instead of a $95,000 penalty.
Wow.
So
Wow.
don't ever give in. Don't ever give up. And that was before tax court, because if we'd lost there, it was going to go to tax court, and we'd have gotten a settlement of something less than the $95,000.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing. That's amazing. And so, yeah, there are certain people like yourself who can represent people in court. You don't have to be like a lawyer or anything. It's the U.S. tax practitioner, and also can
U.S.
an
tax
enrolled
court practitioner.
agent do that as
No,
well?
an
Well,
enrolled
not
agent
in court,
it can't
but
can file in
yeah,
court. Enrolled agents, CPAs, tax lawyers can all represent you. For
right.
instance, for all of our clients, we take what's called a Form 2848, which is an IRS limited power of attorney. And as a CPA, I can have my client sign one of those. And it allows me to advocate for my client directly with the IRS. Rather than sending them to the IRS or them writing letters, I can actually deal with the IRS in their place.
Hmm.
And I tell my clients, this is a fun story, not to deal with the IRS. Let me do it, because they will get emotionally involved.
Mm.
Well, here last year, the IRS screwed up on my employment taxes.
Okay.
Okay. They just made a mistake. So, being the expert I am, I call them up and explain it to them, right? Well, I got this revenue officer who wasn't as well
Sorry.
versed on the IRS regulations and IRS manual as I think he should have been.
Hmm.
And so he was telling me things that weren't true.
Oh
And
wow.
my voice started to rise in volume. And I find myself, after about 15 minutes of this Yahoo, literally yelling at him over the phone. In the back of my mind, I'm going, Charles, don't do this. Don't do this. This is not helping. And I found myself yelling and screaming at him. So he proceeded to get nasty and do more things he's not allowed to do to
Wow.
get even. And it took me about 3 weeks to get a hold of his supervisor, who said, "Oh, Mr. Reed, no, that shouldn't have happened. We'll take care of it. It'll all go away." And it did, because
Mm.
I knew who to talk to. So don't talk to the IRS, because you will get emotionally involved. It's your money, it's your pocketbook, and you won't be happy.
Wow.
Normally, I can do it for my clients, not for
Mm.
me. I need a CPA to handle mine. Uh, I because I'll
Look,
get
that's a
upset with them.
cautionary tale.
Very, very much. I'm a professional at this, and man, I found myself yelling at this Yahoo, and
Wow.
it did not go well.
Well, I'm glad that it got settled, even though it started off shaky.
It
Wow.
got
Okay.
settled in the end. So
That's great advice. Okay. Well, that is amazing. And so when you are dealing, because I want to go back to new business owners that have a lot of s- small business owners, entrepreneurs that do
Sure.
watch the show. So, things that I've heard people say things like, well, I don't plan on having employees, at least not yet. So I don't need to do all of that, do I?
Well, one
Can
of
we
the things
address
that
that?
happens, no, if you incorporate or if you file an LLC as an S corporation, which is smart for tax purposes,
Mm,
you are an employee in your own business
mm,
and you have to withhold and deposit taxes, file 941s, file W-2s, and so on, even if it's just you. I have cautionary tales in the book about that, but people ignore that.
mm.
One of my tales in there is about a CPA who just took it all his distributions and didn't pay himself any W-2 compensation. And the IRS came back in and recharacterized a bunch of that as wages, and all the taxes were due
Mm,
at the time the wages had been paid, plus all the penalties and interest that had
mm.
accumulated over the years since then. This was a
Wow.
CPA. He knew better, but yeah, I can get away with that. Well, he didn't. So no, you again, as we discussed earlier, you don't get to choose. The law defines, and the law changes, which is why you need somebody you can talk to.
Mm,
Uh, March of last year, there was a new uh, law regulations about independent contractors that the Trump administration had written. Well, the day before they were supposed to go into effect, the Biden administration canceled them
mm.
and are writing new ones. So, it changes.
Yeah.
There's the base common law, the 20 guidelines, but everything beyond that changes, and court cases reinterpret things. So, you don't know what you don't know. Get with somebody that does. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we do this for a living. I get several emails a week from the IRS, newsletters and so on, and I get
Yeah.
the trades and the Journal of Accountancy, Journal of Taxation. If you ever want a cure for insomnia, the Journal of Taxation is wonderful. Keep that on your nightstand. Just looking at the cover will put you to sleep. Okay,
I'll remember that.
so Journal of Taxation. There you go. So, uh, but new businesses have to be careful. They
Yeah.
they don't know what they don't know. They need a banker, they need a lawyer, they need an accountant, they need an insurance agent. Okay,
Mm,
those are the four main professions you need to have somebody that you can talk to. You're going to have to handle your money, and that's a bank. You're going to have insurance for the risk. That's your insurance agent. You're going to have a lawyer for the legal aspects. You're going to have an accountant for the accounting and the payroll and the taxes. Those are just things you're going to have to do unless you're one of them. You can't wear those hats. You don't have the time to learn what you don't know. So you've got to have those people in your life, at least on a basis you can pick up a phone and call them and say, "Hey, Joe, what do I do?" Or "Is this
mm-hmm.
a problem?" Now, be careful. Uh, Bankers, lawyers, accountants uh, sometimes will want to tell you how to run your business.
Mm.
Don't let them do that. Let them advise you of the risks and the potential problems, but make your own decisions. It's your business. Don't let them try and run your business. Some of them will.
Yeah. Okay. And for those very small or maybe sole proprietors,
Mm-hmm.
maybe going from hobby to business, because
Sure,
there's a difference. Going from hobby to
there
business.
there is a difference.
Those who are making that transition, because I'm always telling people you should not stick with, if you're like just using a tax preparer, that's fine if that's what you want to do. But once you're making that transition and moving over, you definitely shouldn't still be just using a tax preparer, because basically that's just a person that can prepare the taxes and file them or whatever, but not
Right. I
nothing
mean,
more.
if all you have is if all you have is a W-2 and maybe some medical bills, H&R Block or their equivalent will normally do a nice job. Okay, but The moment you have a business and you have to classify all these kinds of expenses and you have to deal with depreciation as opposed to expensing them, okay, you have now moved out of the realm of tax preparation into the realm of accounting.
Yeah.
And that is a CPA. That's not even an EA. An EA is an enrolled agent. Some of them are some of them, don't get me wrong, some of them are excellent at it and understand accounting fully. But a CPA is trained, and all of them understand accounting, or they wouldn't be a CPA. So with the EAs, some are great, some aren't. With the CPAs, and look, there's some poor CPAs out there. Don't misunderstand me. And if you get one, change. You're not required to stick with one of them. Okay. If you don't like your CPA, if he's not giving you good advice, if he's not telling you where the problems are and helping you solve them and explaining your numbers to you, find another one, please.
Mm.
There's a lot of us out there.
That's actually a good point. You were just saying, explaining your numbers. It is so weird that people will just let people prepare things for them and just sign and don't explain I've seen all sorts of stuff.
Financial statements are not for the book. Financial statements are for you to help run your business. I've been advising small businesses and doing accounting for them for over 30 years. Okay, it's important that you understand the numbers because that helps you guide your business to be successful.
Yes.
So if your CPA can't explain those numbers to you, fire him.
Great advice. I think that's a nice, strong note to end on.
There's some CPAs out there that are not happy with me at the moment, but that's life.
I mean, but that's being honest. If you can, if they're not doing the job well, then you have to move on. So that's honesty. So you guys, this has been an excellent conversation. I hope you all had a pen, some paper, typed it on the computer, plan on listening to this show again. So that you can make sure you didn't miss any of this. This has been really great, Charles. I so appreciate you being here today and giving my audience all of these nuggets. Amazing. Thank you. So for those of you who want to get in contact with Charles and learn more about what his company does, that is his website there, Get Payroll. So definitely check that out. And don't forget about the very free book, while supplies last, right?
Absolutely.
The very free book, the payroll book that Charles is offering you guys. So go check that out. Go get that. Really, guys, go get it. So again, Charles, thank you so much. This has been awesome. And I really appreciate you being here.
My pleasure, NJ.
All righty. Well, this has been another great show, you guys. It's been absolutely fabulous. I thank my guest, Charles Read. He really gave us a lot of powerful information to help you avoid pitfalls and penalties with the IRS, especially us small business owners, right? So until next time, you guys, make sure you join us on the next show every second and fourth Friday at 6 p.m. But until next time, I'll see you guys then, and stay boss.